Hey there, welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I am Sam Oches, editor-in-chief here at NRN, and this is the show where I give you an all-access pass to the restaurant industry's most influential decision makers. This week, I'm talking with Amy Hom, a restaurant industry executive whose resume includes stops at brands like Red Robin, Sweetgreen, and Bluestone Lane. These days, a lot of Amy's attention is on LEAD, an organization that she co-founded with other restaurant executives that invests in future restaurant leaders. That acronym stands for Learning, Exploration, and Development, and the organization is hosting events around the country this year to make networking, education, and professional development more accessible to emerging leaders. That series kicks off on March 7th in Denver and will continue later in the year with events in Chicago and Houston. Amy joined the podcast to talk about LEAD and how the industry can reduce turnover, particularly among GMs, if it did a better job investing in young leaders. In this interview, you will learn more about why young restaurant leaders need networking and education, how the restaurant industry has a work-life balance problem, and how your mentorship could help unlock the potential of a future restaurant star. Jumping now into my interview with LEAD co-founder Amy Hom. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview as I will share my 5 takeaways from this discussion, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. Okay, I'm here with Amy Hom, an executive in the restaurant industry and one of the founders of the organization LEAD. Amy, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sam. Or the
Yeah,
Sam, we say in the industry.
the Sam, the one and
Sorry,
only. That's
Sam
right.
Stanovich.
Yes, of course. Sam Stanovich, I know you're out there. You might be listening, but we are the Sams. I'm going to rename the title of this podcast. But Amy, you have an incredible history in the restaurant industry, incredible resume. Just tell us about yourself to start. What's your journey to the place you're in right now?
Journey to the place I'm in. Well, I worked for incredible brands, Red Robin, Wolfgang Puck, Sweetgreen, recently Bluestone Lane and Reef Technology. And along the way, I've met some incredible leaders and who also helped me with LEAD that we're talking about today. So the Karen Stutzes of the world, Robin Robeson. We've got great sponsors coming on and we've got some great speakers coming up. So, just enjoy the journey and we're all trying to make an impact right now and give back to the business.
Some of those names that you have, had the opportunity to work for. I mean, Sweetgreen, Bluestone Lane, Reef. I mean, I think of some companies that are really innovative, certainly tech forward. And I'm just curious, like, what do you pull from all of these experiences? Are you working for some of these really innovative companies? What are some of the things you've pulled from those companies?
I think the biggest thing that I pulled from them, is how nimble you have to be in this business right now, right? Especially since COVID. But secondly, all the different leadership styles that you get to experience and share and learn from and learn forward from. So, whether you're working with the great Jonathan Neiman, who's this great visionary, to also Ari Avejo that runs Brief Technology, everyone's trying to solve a lot of the world's problems, whether it's the proximity game of trying to get you, an item within 5 minutes or less with, droids or, there's just there's so many things to pull from, to be honest. And so you kind of got to be a unicorn and a chameleon at the same time to sit in some of these rooms and try to make sure that you're adding value to the business while you're learning more and taking away what you can as a leader and an individual. So you're always learning what not to do and what you can do and, learning forward for sure.
Sure. Now where you are, though, too, you are clearly very motivated by the people part of the hospitality industry, because that's really what you're doing here with LEAD. And I'm wondering, before we talk about LEAD itself, what motivated you to become so passionate about developing leaders and being so, focused on the people of this industry?
I think anybody that's worked with me or alongside me or, has reported into me as a leader, I've always been a developer and I'm a culture warrior and I'm very 5 dysfunctions of a team. If you have trust on your team, you can get to any result you want to and you can have fun doing it. And I think what's happened now in our industry, and especially in the QSR segment, is the labor model is getting tighter and tighter, as everybody knows. The laws are getting tougher to abide by, and so you see a lot of the GMs now actually placed in the hourly schedule on the shift. And when I was raised, or up and coming through the ranks in the restaurant industry, a lot of us talk about it is we had the GM stepping back and coaching us and developing us and doing those development plans. And I had so many great mentors along the way help me get to where I am today and coach me and take that time. There was this woman, Sue Collins, and another woman, Sarah Grover, that would, I'd stand on stage and present, and Sue would put a little piece of paper in my hand, like, slow down, better eye contact, and I was so
Hmm.
young, but these folks took the time, like Karen Stutz has also, to really invest in me, and make me a better leader at all times. And there were times I goofed up, but there was always coaching going on, and really helping you elevate. And so I'm just people, you can have one person in your career truly take your career and turn it around if that person slows down and invests in you. And
Hmm.
so I am finding people are going faster and faster these days. I think we all are. They've got more on their plates. There's a lot more things that they have to go on, especially since COVID. Everybody had the RC money. Now you're watching folks trying to struggle in the business. And how can we, and one of the other things, Sam, that I talked about the other day was, Emily, who runs the Texas Restaurant Association, stated that we're at a 15-year high at GM turnover, and they're not
Right.
leaving. They're not leaving the restaurant and going to another restaurant. They're leaving the industry. And so a bunch of us were just having a conversation, and we're like, how do we make this business even sexier than what it is now, and get those emerging leaders some training and some development that is much needed, that some of these mom and pops simply can't afford. Conferences are thousands of dollars. You and I go to them. We've been to them. We've been afforded those, whether we're working for another company or we can go on our own. But you have great managers, great assistant general managers, great GMs, great regional directors, and a lot of the managers are living paycheck to paycheck. So how do you create an environment where they can learn, thrive, and just get some easy development? So, not to go on and on, but we picked some topics. We have a great council of about 20 people. Nancy Van Zimmerman with First Watch. We've got, Katie Stocks with Mod Market. We've got amazing folks on the team. Cassie Sawyer, that does our marketing. And so they all decided that we should do leadership for half of the meeting, and the other half will be on financial acumen. And then we'll do a panel of how do you learn to get to the levels that you want to from the great panels that we put on.
Yeah. So this organization lead, it's an acronym, right? LEAD. What does that stand for?
It's learning, exploration, and development.
Oh, that's great. And such a great acronym. Okay, so you were telling me a little bit before we hit record, but this was kind of a back of a napkin kind of idea. Tell me how this all came together.
Well, I don't want to throw ourselves under the bus, but Karen Stutz, who is in her, as she calls them, her give back years, is doing a lot of board work. And we had been on the phone, and we were chatting and having some wine, throwing that out there and throwing under the bus. We were drinking, and we're just like, how do we give back? But how do we get people? How do we help these emerging leaders in our business get to the next level? And pre-COVID, we ended up putting on a couple of these events. We did one in LA, we did one in Denver, and we had Robin on the team. We have Claudia Lazacco from Fuku. We've got some really great folks, and then we've got a lot of emerging leaders as well. And so you know it is the back of the napkin. That's how these things happen, and not just having the conversation about it. We had decided we were going to put some action into it, some investment. So it's a very mom and pop organization. We kind of fund it ourselves, but we believe that is the right thing to do with everything that's going on in the business.
And going back to kind of the need here, you kind of mentioned it about like sort of the labor model for the industry and why this need has suddenly arisen. What went wrong? Why do you think we're in this place where there is this high GM turnover, and where people aren't getting invested in? What's the thing that went wrong here so that you're not getting, or the young talent today is not getting that same investment that you got when you were early in your career?
That's a great question. I think that the wage rates, right? Like let's look at California, for example. There's not a lot of people opening restaurants in California. But in April, it goes to $20 an hour, not a tax
Right.
credit state. I mean, a tip credit state. So, you know, why would you when you can go, to some of the other states that you can really thrive in? And so, I believe that folks are leaving the industry because they believe, not fact, that the work life is off balance rather than work life integration, which I think is something we all need to talk about in the business. The hours, and they have to work for you have to work for leadership that also understands that and can help support you so you can get to the next level. I love
Hmm.
seeing moms and dads and single moms and, young families thrive in our business because it can happen. The shift, I think, has really kind of come with the level of expectation of what we should be giving and getting from our leaders and our managers. But we have to invest the time in teaching them and coaching them. And I think some of that has kind of eroded a little bit in some of the business. And during COVID, it was all heads down, hands down. We're all in it. We're just trying to survive. And
Yeah.
I used to tell people, if you're not developing your people during this moment right now, when we come out of this, you're gonna be in a tough spot. And so, it's all about succession planning the right way and making sure you've got your aces and you're investing. And right now, I also think there's a lot of folks, just because I'm doing some consulting right now and also working for the fabulous Nabil with Lunchbox. Um, you see, some restaurants keep lower performers because I always call it, are you keeping somebody on a need or a want basis? Do you need this
Mm.
person or do you want them to be a part of your team? And are they bringing down the rest of the house? Because once, you know, gosh, back in the day, somebody throw a $20 bill or a dollar bill on the floor and walk by and see if you caught it, and we're just not as engaged as we should be right now. I'm not saying everybody, but I
Sure.
do think that leadership really needs to, we're so focused on top line and bottom line right now, because otherwise you can't get the equity, I'm sorry, the money that you need to, the investment money to grow. But at the same time, you're not gonna be able to grow unless you have the right people. It is the restaurant
Yeah.
business is number one, people driven and all about the people that you have working for you.
Yeah, totally. I want to throw something at you here. I know you've worked in restaurant operations for a long time, so you know it very well, and I've not. So I just watch from the sidelines. But from the sidelines, as I see it, I'm just wondering if this is part of the problem. Restaurants have become so complicated. I mean, with the technology and all of the various demands that we place on restaurants, I mean, they've gotten so complex. And in that complexity, especially as we try to solve for those complexities with more technology, does it just pull from the human part of things a little too much that we forgot really what restaurants are all about, that we really lost the hospitality soul of the restaurant industry because of all those other complexities? Am I onto something here?
100% you are. And
Okay.
what is happening is we were in this crazy tech phase because of COVID. COVID isn't over, but COVID's taken a different life cycle, right? And what now we are finding, the data showing, is that 70% of people go out and try a new restaurant. And if they have a human connection, they're connected in that business, they will come back to you.
Hmm.
And the tech is kind of slowly going away, and the human connection need is there. We're at an all time high with mental health issues in the country. We're in the second largest employer in the country besides government, and we can make or break somebody's day. Sam can come
Hmm.
over and get a cup of coffee from the coffee shop. And, if I have it waiting for him and I know he's on the run, but I know I can make his day just by saying, "Hey, Sam, so great to see you." They feel like there's a little bit of a safety net. A lot of folks are working from home by themselves, more people are living alone. And so they do go out not to just get tech, they go out for the human connection. So, you see some of these companies really thriving. You see Barcelona Wine Bar that has a great hospitality program. You see some of these places that are doing really well now where tech is working and we have to have tech, but it has to complement the guest experience and support it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, everybody wonders, how does Chick-fil-A do so well? They get the human connection very,
Yeah,
very well, and
they
there's
do.
there's it's just pretty straightforward.
We're
So
in the hospitality industry. It's
y-
I'm just so
absolutely.
passionate about it. It's what we do, and so we.
Yeah.
I was. I my motto kind of is, if you go into a restaurant and it feels like a party, you've got the right GM, you've got the right leadership running it. If you walk in and I have to bring your party for you, we need to go back and kind of have a conversation about who's leading the organization or the business.
That's right. So going back to lead then, how do you teach? What are you teaching? Because, in hospitality, of course, a lot of people talk about soft skills because soft skills are very important to succeeding in hospitality, but it goes beyond that. There are a lot of skills needed to be a leader and to be, especially a leader in hospitality. So what do you try to provide? What is that kind of core investment that lead is trying to provide to these young leaders?
Well, the first for 2024, our three big buckets. The first one is leadership. So I am I cannot even tell you, I jump out of my seat if I could, that I'm so ecstatic that we got Marilyn Sherman, who's a Hall of Fame speaker, and she's coming to talk about leadership. And then the next half of the session is on financial acumen. So for the Denver session, we've got Marilyn and we have Jamie Benson with Karen teaching financials. And because the businesses are so busy right now, just keeping, the doors open, supply chain issues, like you said, there's so much that goes into running a restaurant. We're really going to dig in and teach some financial issues, whether it's reading an earnings call statement that probably a lot of these emerging leaders haven't listened to, that'll really help elevate them. We'll also give them a definitions list of how do you get food costs? What does a P&L mean? We assume a lot of times that these leaders that we're hiring know what all those things are, and they're not. And so if they can take those tools away and walk out of the room and be more confident, we also know that leaders it's shown that if you do understand financials, and you've got the EQ and the IQ, kind of what you talked about before, and a good balance, you can run a restaurant pretty quickly and be extremely successful. But we find that a lot of times they're going so fast, they're doing their opening checklists or doing their schedules, and they're not really digging into the inputs that really make up the P&L. So, what are the actions and behaviors that are in, that they're controlling in their business to manage the output of the P&L. So we're digging into that. And then, of course, a lot of the managers do not get access to the C-suite or executive level or board members. So we've had some great people reach out and say, hey, I'll come to your event and just hang out. And that's what we need, because even if you talk to one person, one thing you say may change their career or the way they look at the business. And
Yeah.
there's just not that downtime. It's go, 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 go. So it's just, let's get some space for them. The emerging leaders, they're the ones that are the most important in the business right now, and evolve them and get them connected with the right people.
So you've specifically mentioned general managers. I mean, do you have kind of a sweet spot for the kind of leaders you're trying to get your claws into now, or is it just any young leader?
I think it's any and everybody. I've had people ask, hey, can I bring from a different industry? And of course, leadership's leadership at the end of the
Yeah.
day. It's transferable skill set. For financials, also transferable. You may learn how to manage your checkbook at home a little bit better and do some different investing. And then, of course, at the end, we have a panel with the C-suite or some emerging leaders or some council members that we have that Robin will run. And that's just them being able to ask questions. We do limit these events to 100 people. And I want to hear a little bit about Create, because I think you and I are very aligned that this is kind of a need in the industry, and
Yeah.
what you're doing as well, because it's very aligned with what we're doing. And hopefully we can work together to figure it all out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with Create, we do an annual event every year. Did it in Palm Springs last year, Nashville this October. And it's for emerging restaurateurs who tend to be younger leaders. And it's free, but we also recognize that, yeah, you got to get yourself to this place across the country in some instances. So we started doing road shows, and we do these road shows in communities where we go and we have a networking event and some education, but it's really built around that networking. And as I think you discovered too, it is, I think, as you mentioned, it's people don't have the opportunity to get out of their restaurant. Their head is down, they're busy. It's also expensive to leave your restaurant for a couple of days, get a hotel, get a flight, go to an event. And so giving them a venue where they can connect with each other, meet each other, learn from each other, and in some instances, again, sort of take that to them and into their backyard so they have that excuse to do it. is really impactful. And so we've seen that impact all over the country with how these young emerging leaders are so inspired. And at the end of the day, like, I don't need that to my glory, right? Like, that is all for this industry to say, if I could facilitate that connection and lead to this restaurant having this new partner or this new hire, or just to be inspired and do things for their team, then all the better. The restaurant industry is all the better for it.
Yes, and due to this high turnover we're seeing where people are leaving the industry, I think we need more and more of this. And it's on every leader in the industry, honestly. We always say, in women's leadership groups, bring one, take one with you, bring somebody with you, but it's for everyone. And men, women, any walk of life that is interested should have an opportunity. And we are in an industry where you can come from any kind of background and you can become a C-suite, you can become an executive, you can get on the board. You can volunteer for programs like Create or Lead or
Hmm.
Glean. And so it's this really cool business. And it's just, I've seen so many success stories and it's so cool to watch them. And I think that's what keeps me in the business, is just knowing that you can have a little bit of an imprint on this journey of somebody. That I've had so many people imprint my career, and it's just, even what if you go to this session and it could be kind of life changing for you. You just don't know. And you do have to put, I had a GM call yesterday from past life, and he said, I still work for so and so, I want to attend. And I'm like, we'll figure this out, we have to get you there. And he's these are the folks that are out there that really want to progress their career, they just don't know how.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we're responsible for.
And there's a real misperception in the restaurant industry too. Obviously, we know that a big hurdle in this industry is getting past the burger flipper kind of mentality, or the bottom rung of the ladder. I'm just paying my way through school. That mentality has to go out the window, because you can quickly earn six figures in the restaurant industry in management. You can build a career. Heck, you could become a millionaire someday if you really put your mind to it and really take ownership of your role. And so it seems like Lead is really trying to be a part of a solution to that problem, right? I mean, how do you really sort of ingrain that mentality in these young leaders? Like, there is trajectory ahead of you. There are so many things you can accomplish. How can you inspire them to understand that?
Oh my gosh, that's such a valid point. It's telling people's journeys, and show, because I do think, to your point, that there is this misperception that, oh, they're a COO, so they have a degree in XYZ, or they're a CEO. And when you dig into people's backgrounds, especially there are a large group that have that, but there's also folks like myself. My first job was McDonald's and Burger King, and then I ended up serving at Houlihan's and St. Louis. And I just kept moving up because I kept asking questions like, how do you do that? And learning more, and getting to, and then finding advocates. It is interesting right now when I ask young leaders, who, do you have a mentor? And it doesn't have to be this formal mentorship. Sometimes it's just asking somebody for a little bit of help. And I think I've got about 15 of them, to be honest. I probably call one a day. And you just have to put your guard down and be vulnerable and tell your story. But my story is very similar to many.
Mhm.
And so there's just these wild opportunities for you to be. And sometimes it's a time and a place. When you're not promoted, you don't get a raise when you're not in the room. It happens when, I'm sorry, when you're not in the room is when it happens. You get a
Yeah.
promotion or an increase. You have to have those advocates at the table for you. So, building your network of mentorship, building your network of your advocates, all of those pieces kind of fall into play here. And it's easy to do, but you do have to take the time and to invest in yourself. And I think that that's what this program is, and what you're doing is, and Gleam is too, or these nonprofits that are really coming to the table trying to help this need in the business. And I would attend if I was an emerging leader. I think it's worth it. Ours is $30, yours is free. Now you make me sound expensive. But
30's not that bad.
WFF's a couple $1,000. So I think it's for travel and everything else. So I think that it's worth it to invest in yourself. Ours is just a night. It's like 5 to 9 p.m. And we have great food, and you feel like you're coming into a very positive atmosphere, and you're developing yourself. And if you just take
Mhm.
one thing away or one connection away, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, 100%. You've mentioned Gleam a few times. I'm sure most people listening are familiar with Gleam, but tell me quickly about the mission of Gleam and the relationship you guys have with them.
Yeah, it's a great partner of ours with Sanjeev and Karen and the team there. They will be at all lead events, and we partner with them as far as getting mentors for folks that want them, mentees. So you can sign up to be a mentor, you can sign up to be a mentee. And so it's an ongoing where you get a mentor mentee kind of for a certain period of time, a quarter, I believe, and then you can continue if you'd like. But you're getting some C-suite mentorship or exec mentorship as a mentee if you're interested. Also, what is really cool, a lot of the like when we first did lead, we had a lot of people from Shake Shack. I think they almost bought out the whole event in LA. And then you start to see that some of these organizations actually do take the time to buy tickets to our event, your event, to get them there, or to
Hmm.
Gleam to pay for them to have a mentor. And Gleam has had some really great success stories watching some of their folks that have been mentees get to the next level in their career. And like I said, it could just be that one person that like flips a switch for your career and gets you where you want to go, or you know, listen, Sam, like one of the things that is interesting in leadership is if let me backtrack. I was getting out of a car with this amazing CEO, Steve Carley, back in the day at Red Robin. And I looked at him and I said, why do you think some people get promoted and some people don't? Like, why are some people always staying stagnant at the same level? And I share this story when I'm coaching others, and he's looked at me and he's like, well, that's simple. It's those people that can or cannot take feedback. If you can take feedback and you can put it into your daily life or into your leadership style or get better at your financials, whatever you need, you can get to the next level. If somebody gives you feedback and you say, oh, I already got that, or I know that, or I have a wall up, and he said, we stopped giving the gift of feedback. So that's a whole nother tool that we talk about a little bit is that little feedback piece, because that also will make or break you. But yeah, it's this whole thing just you can tell I'm so passionate, but
Yeah.
it's just because it's just this industry is super fun. You get to talk to the handsome Jeff Alexander. Something, I talked to him this weekend, and it's just so refreshing, right? And then Greg at Majewski, always available if you have a question, and he's like this guru of wealth of knowledge. Like, you just it you can you can surround yourself with just some really cool people. And I feel like I go to a party every day, and I'm not in a restaurant every single day, but you do feel like in this industry, like you do, like it's just such a cool network of folks. And these emerging leaders are in a class of their own where they're building their own network of a party.
Yeah, it really is a family in this industry. Although, look, I don't think we need to make Jeff Alexander's head any bigger than it is by calling him handsome. Just kidding, love you, Jeff. Um, but it is. I mean, and what I was going to say too is it's amazing when you think about. I mean, there are literally over 1 million restaurants in the United States, right? I mean, the scale of this industry is incredible, but it's genuinely. I know you found this too. It's genuinely a small world
Mhm.
in the connections that you make, the people that you meet. But that also doesn't happen by accident. I think like what we've tried to do with Create, I've tried to do over my career is ensure that there is some intentionality behind building the family of restaurants, because you can't sit back and wait for these things to happen. You have to go and kind of find it for yourself. And all the people that we've talked about on this call, all the people that I'm sure we share in our networks, are people who went out and put themselves out there and found this family, right? That we all get to be
Mhm.
a part
There's
of.
gang
Anyway,
members too.
yeah, exactly. That's right. But I don't know what you think about that, but like
Oh,
for
100%.
me, I feel like we have to sort of tear down the wall for those people who don't understand, who feel like this is an exclusive kind of a thing, and understand that it's not.
No, you know, we are, it is a very open and welcoming community. And if there is, I will say this, I think pre-COVID, everyone kind of was very, we were all, competitive and who's doing this and who's doing that. When that happened, I think one of the best things that came out of it is now everybody's trying to figure the restaurant industry out together. because it's becoming, whether it's the, the changes in law and all of these things, the supply chain issues, and now it's who has this, who's getting better pricing. I've been helping out a lot with the businesses on technology because I've sat through a million demos in the last 3 months of, is it Toast, is it, is it Revel, is it Clover, who are these players, is it, and learning more about what Lunchbox does with, the also great looking Nabil. So you have all of these players at the table, and every single person is approachable, and so you can create your own circle of people. And it's just such a fun space to be in. And so I think the emerging leaders, they will also take our place at some point, and some of these councils and on boards and things. But they do have to put the time in, like you
Mhm.
said, they have to invest in themselves.
Yeah. What do you think about the younger generation in general? Because, I don't know. It's been a while since you and I were young leaders. Not so long, but like it's been a bit. And how I came into this industry and the things I was looking for, a little bit different than what you might see from like Gen Z today. And I think about this a lot in media, which is how do you reach young generations? What kind of content do they want? How are they engaging with my brand? And I got to tell you, it's perplexing. There's a real, it's really fractured in media in particular. And so I'm curious about younger generations from your perspective in mentoring younger generations and trying to find new leaders and investing in them. What do you think they want and need? With that Gen Z in particular, what's the key to really getting them, to be a part of this family like we're talking about?
They want time. They want time with us. They want intentional time. They want to be told and taught and understood in the way of, how do I work these hours and make sure I'm still living to work, not working to live. You have to sit with them and understand what their development goals are. I do a lot of development planning. Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? What is your dream job? And sometimes you have to also sit down and kind of walk them through their career path and what it could look like for them. And I'm not sure leadership is slowing down at all times to do that. And like you said, it's ever changing. There's TikTok, there's social media, there's all of these platforms. But at the end of the day, it's just like the guests coming in, the 70% that'll come back if you make a human connection. It's the same thing with the employees. I have a personal story because my son works for Blaze Pizza, franchisee, and he comes home and he'll just share certain things, and we'll coach him a little bit on it. And he loves the industry, but growing up he would watch his dad and I and say, I'm never working in the restaurant industry, because we're on the road a lot. But
Yeah.
I think he understands how fun it is. And you don't have to sit at a desk, and you can get up and move around and go to the party every day and add value. But you're right, the generation is different, but we have to slow down to seek to understand it so that we can get through to each one of those individuals. I'm trying not to treat them as a group, but more so as, this person functions this way, and so how do we get through to this one if they're an A player, right? And then
Right.
make sure the younger generation also, they do not want to work with C and D players. They want to work with A and B. The B's should be able to get up to the A's, and the C's and D's shouldn't be on your team. And so you have to spend the time, and you can't just be working on your own career as a leader. If you're leading, you actually have to focus on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you mentioned you have 3 events in 2024. For those listening who want to get engaged with Lead, tell them where to find you, how to get involved, how to participate.
Yes, thank you. We've got our next event on June 6th in Chicago, and then following, we're in Houston on September 26th. We've got some great speakers there as well. I know the one in Houston, we've got Emily Williams Knight speaking. And so we've got Facebook, we've got a LinkedIn page. All of that's being posted at all times. So if you want to join those, you can always hit me up on LinkedIn. We also have some folks that are interested in joining the Lead Council. We're more than welcome to chat with those folks. At the end of the day, it's all volunteer work, and it's all nonprofit. But I think it's all for a good cause, and we have a great group of people. So, we celebrate everything on our lead group, from somebody got a new dog to someone's learning how to paint a new cabinet. So that's what we
Yeah,
do.
that's great. All right, two quick questions for you before I let you go. First one is, what do you hope Lead can accomplish?
I hope lead attracts and develops the next level leadership and connects
Hmm.
and shows the way and the path to get them into a really great seat in their career in our industry, and that we retain them.
That's good. Last question. What is the one piece of advice you would give to listeners about leadership and investing in young leaders in particular?
Oh, that's not just a one liner. It's a big question. Uh, for me, if it's one line, I would say have a development plan for each person on your team, and it's not about your business. It's about what do they want to develop in, and what they want to learn in life, and then show interest and make sure that they're getting those tools, because they will then enhance your business and your brand in the within your four walls.
That's great. You did it good. Amy
That's a tough
Hom, the
question.
co-founder of Lead. I appreciate your time today, Amy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sam.
That was my interview with Lead co-founder Amy Hom. So what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 5 takeaways. My first takeaway is that by investing in emerging leaders, you can lower turnover. Turnover today is actually pretty high with general managers in particular. And we've done a lot of coverage in the last year about how your general manager is really your most important employee. This is the person who is activating your brand at the ground level. Amy had this line in our conversation that I loved, which is, if she walks in and it feels like your restaurant is a party, then your manager is doing something right. You need to invest in those general managers and more broadly in your young leaders. If you do this, they will see your brand, your business, the industry as a place for long-term career and professional development. They will want to stay. Too many GMs and too many young restaurant leaders are leaving this industry for other industries. They don't see the need for them to stay in the industry. They don't see how it could be that opportunity for them in the future. And a lot of it's often because restaurants are not paying enough attention to the people. Amy made a comment that so many restaurant leaders are focused on the top line. They're focused on top line growth and focused on, pushing the brand forward. You got to look behind you at the people behind you, because those are the people bringing your brand to life. They're the ones who need that investment. She also mentioned how younger leaders today, especially Gen Z leaders, they want intentional time. They want your attention on them. And they want you to mentor them, to invest in them. If you can do that, again, you're going to show them how they are important to the business. You're going to show them why they should want to stay. Have a development plan for each person too. That was another thing Amy mentioned about investing in your people. Not only show them your attention, give them your attention, give them your time, but have a plan for them. They're looking for that. And again, it will help you to lower your turnover. My second takeaway is that young restaurant leaders need networking and education. Now, this is where I get a little bit selfish in plugging our own events of Create, because Amy is onto something as well with Lead. In noticing this need for networking and this need for education, not just in annual events, which of course we do with Create, we have with our restaurant leadership conference as well, but in regionalized events. This is what we've done with our Create Road shows, which I mentioned in this interview, and this is what Amy and Lead are doing around the country as well. I don't know where you're at in the country geographically, but there's a good chance that there's something that is accessible to you somewhere that you can go participate in that hopefully will bring you that networking and education. Often we get it. Some of these conferences can be out of reach either by cost or simply by destination. It might be too far away. You can't get away from your business for that amount of time. But it's critical that you focus on that networking and education if you are a young leader. And it's also critical if you have young leaders on your team that you get that same kind of attention to networking and education as well, because through those resources, you can grow in your career, you can grow in your own professional development. Again, LEAD is a great opportunity for that, as Amy so eloquently described in this interview. And you can find her at LinkedIn for more details about that. We have our Create Roadshows. You can find more at create.nrn.com. But again, it comes back to young leaders need networking, they need connections to their peers, and they need education. They need to learn more about this industry in order to want to stay around and help to invest in this business and this industry. My third takeaway is that the restaurant industry has a work-life balance problem. Amy had this great line that is so true and so really tragic at the same time. She said, there's been a shift in our expectations of what we should be giving and getting from employees, in that we expect to get more from them and we're not giving enough in return. I think that is really true. And again, it's kind of a sorry state of affairs. If we expect to get more out of our employees, we have got to put more into them. And so many employees in the restaurant industry are leaving this industry because that balance is out of whack. People want a life, believe it or not. They want to have that balance in their life, that their job is one part of their lives, but they want the opportunity to spend time with their family, with their kids, with their parents. They want to go get an education. They want hobbies, they want friends. We have to, as an industry, understand that that balance is necessary. And so we have to give them that opportunity to have that balance in their lives. And if we do that, then maybe we can get out of employees what we really want to get from them. Amy pointed out, everybody should have an opportunity on your team to thrive. But when you demand too much from them, they're not going to thrive. Figure out how to find balance for your employees in their lives. Figure out how they can thrive. Because again, it all comes back to, keeping them happy, keeping them trained, keeping them developed, making sure you're investing in them. And if they find that balance, they will want to stick around and they will want to give it back by working for your business. My fourth takeaway is that your ability to receive feedback will determine how far you can go in any industry. Amy quoted Steve Carley at Red Robin, her former boss, as having said that line, which is, how do you make it far in this industry? How do you open doors to new opportunities? You receive feedback. When people above you tell you, give you feedback, receive it, learn from it, and grow from it. And if you can do that, you can go far. Young leaders really need to understand this, especially. I was talking earlier about how they want your attention, they want your time, they want your feedback. Give it to them. If you give them that feedback, and if they are able to receive that feedback, they can grow exponentially in their trajectory, in their personal development, and in being a critical part of your team. My fifth and final takeaway is that your mentorship could help unlock the potential of a future restaurant star. LEAD has been working with Gleam. You might have heard about Gleam as well. Gleam is all about providing mentorship for restaurant employees. It's this great organization that I also suggest you take a look at. And Amy talked a lot about how mentorship is so important. It's been so important to her in her career. And she is giving back by having mentees in her life that she's been the mentor for. And that's an important thing for everybody to remember, that, there are probably people on your path and your journey who helped you get to where you are. If you don't have mentors now, you've probably had mentors in the past. You could be that to somebody else. Who are those people in your life, those young leaders who are looking to you for guidance, for advice, for education? Be that person for somebody else, because you can help the restaurant industry go further. You can help people go further in their lives. And at the end of the day, that will make the world a better place. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again, and talk to you next week.